Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports. And this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there. This is Ben Dickerson, your co-host, as we make our way through the off season and we approach the NFL draft. We're here again, like we are every week, to talk things football, everything football.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you're a big football fan, stick with us. We're going to have some fun. Remember, this is Ben and Barry on football. That is also our website address, benandbarryonfootball.com. Click the like button and the subscribe button and the other button, whatever buttons you see, so that you can make sure you do not miss some of our upcoming shows. We're trying to bring you some information from a slightly different perspective. Again, Ben is a guy who is still living the football life, coaching in national tournaments with flag football traveling teams and playing every fantasy sport that you could possibly play, but actually just buzzing out, on football with like 17 leagues at one time. So he's got a very specific abnormality that you might enjoy.
That's a slight exaggeration.
A slight exaggeration.
I might in fact play in 5. Okay, all right, you're right. It's actually more than 17.
You know what I'm saying? My background, we've just been football fans. We've been talking football for close to 40 years, played together, coached together. He coached my son, all the stuff in the back, except for that red jersey, which represents my beloved Niners. But I should rep his beloved Roxborough. I forget what the Roxborough, what's it say there? The Indians, yeah.
That's
right there in Roxborough, in Philadelphia.
It's politically incorrect, isn't it? They should be looking to change that.
They might have to make a change, But, it's not. First of all, I don't know. Do Indians mind being called Indians? I mean, I have a certain amount of indigenous blood in my family, and that's, through DNA stuff. But, I don't know. How do they feel about that?
Well, after the Washington football team decided to do something about their name, the Cleveland Indians baseball team, Major League Baseball team, is now saying that they are going to attempt to come up with a new name by next season. I believe it's going to be by next season. They've already done away with the logo. So instead of seeing the logo on their caps, they now just have the big capital C. So they're on their way to changing that. I don't know what they're going to change it to, but it's in the works.
I know there was some Indian, we'll call them we'll say indigenous, Americans looking for the Chiefs to change their name. Chief in and of itself isn't derogatory, Washington's name was definitely, derogatory.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know if that's,
I don't think they've gotten too much flack. I don't believe the Kansas City Chiefs have gotten too much flack. And it's very interesting that where Kansas City, Missouri is located, I believe there's a pretty strong amount of Native Americans living there in that area, in the surrounding area, and they haven't given them too much. I think they get away with Chiefs because the chief is more of a title as opposed to, something about a certain type of people.
Right, exactly. So it's not, like I said, it's not as derogatory, you know what I mean? And Native American is another term that we can use. I think that's well acceptable. Everybody's pretty happy with that. Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to talk about a number of things. Let's get ready to kick something off here. Let's see, Ben, I'm going to do some random choices here. Random. Everything is coming from our Facebook page, B&BOF Facebook.com/BNBOF is how you would find our Facebook page. You don't even have to have a Facebook account. You can go to Facebook.com/BNBOF. And because our page is a public page, kind of like a website, so you can see all the stuff that we're going to be talking about. We love to have your comments, don't we, Benny?
Yes, we do. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So the Players Association, NFL Players Association, the union working on behalf of the NFL players, is sort of behind a move to not participate in the voluntary workouts that the NFL normally would schedule at about this time. Still citing COVID concerns. You see here, this is a statement on behalf of the LA Rams, where they're saying, like others across the NFL, that they've decided to use that to rest, recover, and rebuild. The pandemic hitting members of the team and the city hard. So they felt that it's unnecessary at this time to be volunteering to put themselves at risk for in-person workouts with players currently around the country working to safely improve their game on their own. So we talked about the NFL's record during the season with testing and monitoring, especially within their facilities, that their facilities were generally very safe, and that participating in voluntary workout in an NFL facility, as opposed to going out, where's Tom Brady, in the park somewhere, with a lot of other people, where you could be with the professionals that are part of your organization who are also getting tested, who are also being monitored. And they wear the things so that you can see, what's that called again?
Tracing.
Contact tracing. So, it's very, scientific in the way that they approach it. And they had great numbers. Their numbers were fractions of a percent, nowhere near what the general population was. So what do you think?
Well, I can understand where the players are coming from. And during the season, I thought the NFL did really well with their testing protocols and what they would require a player to do and go through if, in fact, they tested positive. They used the contact tracing so that if somebody did come up positive, they were able to go back and see who they were around, either to find out if that person or persons were possibly infected and or where they may have contracted it from. So it was a really good system. It seemed to work really well. There were a few outbreaks early, but for the most part, they kept things pretty much under control. And each team had their own little bubble at their facility. The only thing is, it wasn't a true bubble because players were allowed to go home after practice, go home after games, go out when they were on the road and things like that. So of course, at that point, you just have to ask the players themselves to be careful on their own, which again, for the most part, they did. Now, but we're coming into a new season now. So it seems like they're trying to limit team activities, or they would like for team activities to be limited early on because they feel comfortable with where they are, either in their hometown or meeting up with specific teammates or friends to work out on their own. And they're in places working out on their own with people and in places where they feel comfortable, and they just don't want to rock the boat. That's the way it reads to me. So anything that they feel might be an unnecessary workout type situation where they're bringing the team together early on, they'd rather not do. I can't blame them. Nobody wants to get COVID. Nobody wants to contract it and take it back home to their family. So we're in the same boat we were in last year. I don't blame them. Not to mention, of course, some people are going to go, well, they don't want to do preseason workouts anyway. Well, that may be true. But there's going to come a point where the players know that eventually the team has got to get together to practice and to work out so that they can function as a team and be prepared for the preseason, which I believe is only going to be 2 games, and the long season, which is now going to be 18 games. And we're going to talk about that at a later date also. But I dig where the players are coming from.
Okay, wait. You think the preseason is only going to be 2 games as opposed to 3? Because normally it's 4. And also the actual number of games they're supposed to play is 17, although it's an 18-week.
Well, I thought that's what I said. In other words, it's been 16 games scheduled with a 17-week schedule.
Right.
And now that we're going to an 18-week schedule, they will play 17 games.
Exactly. How many preseason games do you think they'll play?
I thought I heard 2. I was kind of rooting for 2. I believe the Players Association wants to go to 2, but if it ends up being 3, so be it. I'm not sure. So I don't want to say, but I was kind of hoping it would only be 2.
Okay.
Players would prefer it to be 2.
Well, you're not going to see your starters anyway. So 2 or 3, I don't see as that big of a deal, because the people that you're going to see play, or the people that they'll get a chance to, to see play will be people that are on the cusp of being cut.
They'll have to. If they only have 2, then that time's got to be devoted to those kind of players. Yes.
Yeah. Well, but don't you want your starters do you want your starters to get any preseason work?
How to work out last year?
Okay, last year what did they do? No preseason at all?
There's no preseason at all. We talked about it. We said the first 4 games would be like the preseason, and the regular season.
Which is kind of the way it is most of the time.
Yeah, but guess what? We saw the starters, and they did well off the bat, or they did poorly off the bat, or they competed or whatever, and the season went on and everything was fine.
Okay, all right. So you're questioning the need at all?
I question the need.
You think 2, if you need anything, you need 2, and they should be focused on those guys that, are on the fringes.
Yes.
Okay.
Fringes, rookies, free agents you might have brought in. You want to make sure they're down with the playbook and their leadership skills and how they are on the sideline and blah, blah, blah. Anybody you think that needs a look. Every team evaluates every single player, so they know who needs the work and who doesn't need the work. They know what they want to see. They know who they want to see in game action. I don't think it'll be a problem at all.
Okay. All right. So now I wanted to share this article, and we have it on our Facebook page. And we just had a second NFL star running back become a head coach at an HBCU school. Deion Sanders kind of got this thing really cooking when he took over as a head coach for Jackson State. And Deion, which is, what he called himself, according to USA Today, his star power is paying off in a big way for Jackson State. Deion, as they're saying right now, has generated the equivalency of $185 million in advertising and exposure for Jackson State. That's a lot of money for an HBCU. That takes HBCU to a whole nother level. They also get into this article a little bit about the whole concept of the students being able to profit off of their name, off of, their likeness, which came up, and we talked about this in a previous show, with the EA Sports game, NCAA, where, you know, they were using the kids' likenesses and stuff and making money and weren't paying them naturally, and those students weren't exactly benefiting directly from any of that. But the main thing is that Deion itself has really had what they call the Deion effect. And, you know, remember the Oprah effect?
Right.
No, Oprah. I remember Oprah had a couple people on her show. Like one lady, I think she had a bakery, and she almost got put out of business. You know, businesses have a hard time when demand crushes the business. You know, they just really kind of screws them up. So the Deion effect is kind of like that. And, you know, he's bringing about some different types of thinking because, again, he's helping these kids, and he's really trying to look at these kids as young men, you know, that are in the grooming stage, you know, and he wants to provide that. So, you know, they talk about him having a board in his office with all this to-do stuff, you know, and he's talking about, you know, credit repair and coffee and you know, all of this kind of stuff. And then he's got all of his advertising connects that he's there for. But again, he is sort of a proponent, and it says here that on Friday, now this article was not too long ago, but the Mississippi governor, Tate Reeves, signed the Mississippi Senate Bill 2313, which allows college athletes to receive compensation for use of their names, images, and likenesses. So the law goes into effect July 1st, with Mississippi becoming at least the 9th state to pass this type of measure, and the 3rd following Florida and New Mexico that will soon of an effective date. So, you know, it's July 1st. You know, we can expect to see, you know, however that's going to turn out. But in addition to that, Deion is just having an effect on HBCUs in general, in terms of now when Jackson State shows up for a game, oh, the other team is juiced. You know what I mean? Can you imagine? All right, you got the Seminoles, and Deion has a flag team, and he shows up to play your Seminoles. What are you going to tell your boys, Benny? What are you going to tell them guys, man? How you going to get them juiced up, you know? We got to go out there and bust this guy's bubble.
It's funny you should say that, because we've had something like that.
Really?
Yes.
What happened?
You know, Marcus and Markieff Morris that play in the NBA?
Okay.
They sponsored a team in our league.
Oh, okay.
and they played in a couple of games.
Oh, did they really?
Yes, they did. And the team itself was not that good. They had good players, and that team now has kind of evolved into a really, really good team. I don't think they don't sponsor them anymore, but they did in fact front some cash and get some guys able to get a team together. But that team now has evolved into a really good team, a nationally ranked team.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, but in fact, when we found out, it was a bit of an incentive. But let's face it, once you get to the field and everybody gets suited up, you just play. You know, you just play. And I think Deion's going through the same thing too. I keep reading about all this bulletin board material that the other coaches are using when it's the week before they play Jackson State, and you know, it's Deion Sanders, so what? No big deal. We got to just strap it up and you know, it's regular football talk. It's bulletin board stuff. Some coaches have tried to goad him into, in my opinion, tried to goad him into kind of a back and forth so they can kind of like bring him down off his pedestal and make him seem like, hey, he's just another coach. which in fact he is. When you really get down to it, it's just that who he is, what his name represents, is a bigger deal for HBCUs all the way around. Eddie George is going to now become a head coach at an HBCU. According to Deion, there are several other stars, retired NFL stars, that are looking to get into coaching and would like to coach at HBCUs. Ed Reed's name came up.
Wow, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. So again, television, okay?
Yeah.
State games are televised now. We used to have to wait. We used to have to wait for the big doggone it gets away, the Heritage Bowl or whatever the name of it was, between Southern and whoever, or Morgan State or Grambling. You might see 2 HBCU games all season, if that. But now it's a big deal. Now they're getting some television rights, and that's great. That's wonderful. He's done that. You're going to see probably, I mean, I know they're out there trying to recruit 5-star players. I don't know how many 5-star players they're going to get, but they're going to get some 4s, and they're definitely going to get some 3s, which means the quality of opponents is going to begin to come up. You're going to see more guys getting drafted out of HBCU schools, like it was way back in the day when it happened pretty often. And they almost every single one of them were stars. Go back and look at the list of Hall of Famers, and check out the schools that they went. You'll see.
FAMU, baby, fastest man in the world.
Yeah, you'll see
Cowboys.
You'll see FAMU. You'll see Morgan. You'll see Southern. Probably see Southern a lot. You'll see a lot of Grambling, Dougie Williams, MVP, Super Bowl MVP. I mean, the list goes on and on. So, yes, he has changed things, and he has changed things for the better. And I'm rooting for him, and I'm rooting for Jackson State because I want to see, what kind of squad he can really put together. We'll know better next season after he's got a season under his belt and gets another full off season of recruiting. We'll see what he can pull in then. But I like it. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful.
The thing, and I'm looking it up now. Okay, the thing that he did, and this was a learning lesson for me because my theory had been that the super talented didn't make great coaches. We saw so many times those guys that were so much less talented made great coaches because they had to be technique correct. They had to do all the things correct.
There's a couple of reasons. There's a couple different reasons, but yes, I'm with you on that.
The thing that Deion did that kind of throws my theory out the window is he went and he was getting ex-NFL players to be his coordinators and assistant coaches. So he's building a coaching tree over there. Now, he might be out front on the field game day, but let's see. He's got Otis Ridley, director of player personnel, Michael Pollock, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, Jason Phillips, co-offensive coordinator, Dennis Thurman, defensive coordinator, T.C. Taylor. A lot of these guys had some level of NFL experience, or at least high level coaching experience in college. So he built a nice little staff around him. And that's the main thing that is going to help offset and show the other coaches and models like, okay, you don't have to be, Bill Belichick, but you have to build a good organization.
Absolutely.
And with your general football knowledge and acumen, you can be successful in that situation. So congrats on all of those levels.
It also, I think he's trying to prove that you don't necessarily have to go to a major university to make it to the NFL. Okay. if he can put together the kind of coaching staff and run the kind of system that will allow his players to really shine and start to get those 3 and 4 and possibly 5-star athletes out of high school, if they have NFL dreams, they won't be dashed. They'll have a chance. They'll get seen. We'll be going to Jackson State for Jackson State's pro day in a year or two. We'll be going to Grambling's pro day. You know what I mean? It'd be great. It'd be wonderful. A lot of guys may think, wow, it would be nice to go to Morehouse, which is more famous for academics, but they do have a football team. It would be nice to go to Florida A&M. It would be nice to go to Bethune-Cookman. They're in Florida too. People go, oh, I'm going to University of Miami, man. Guess what? Bethune-Cookman is right there.
Much less Florida, was it Florida State right there in Tallahassee?
That's right.
That's
right.
We were literally able to walk from our campus to their campus just for a Saturday night out.
Exactly. So environment-wise, weather-wise, the opposite sex-wise and all that, it's all still there. But guys that were 4 and 5-star athletes are saying, oh, I'm not going to go to Florida A&M when I can go to Florida State. Maybe Deion helps change that with what he's doing. And if it picks up and we got Eddie George coming in, maybe we get a Ed Reed, maybe we get a Ray Lewis, who knows? Okay. But this is the start of something that could possibly be really big for HBCUs.
If Ray Lewis was coaching, would he come out and dance, do his Ray Lewis dance?
No, probably not. No.
You said something, though, that sparked a thought in my mind when you were talking about the pro days and things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you know, as a Niner fan, with our 3rd pick, I had already said I really like Trey Lance.
You really want to go here?
Well, wait a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Because what Trey Lance has on between pros and cons, on the con side, is his number of snaps, number of games, right? That type of play experience, just numbers, pure numbers. But what he has on the pro side is that they're saying he played in a pro system. So he's used to being up under center. He's used to that pro style. So for him, when they were talking to him about football, they felt he was very advanced in his knowledge base, and so in terms of his ability to compute at a pro level, they were actually very amazed almost about that. Then you come out and you add all of his physical skills and the fact that he threw I don't know how many, a few hundred passes, and he had 1 interception in his entire career. So he is getting a look. He's getting taken seriously because he was in a pro system, is my whole point. So Deion and them coming from the pros, right, could actually really groom their players, more so, because I always wondered about these coaches. They're out here running a triple option and stuff like that, and then they wonder why their quarterbacks aren't being taken higher in the draft. I don't know if they even wonder. They probably know, but that's what they run. You know what I mean? And like you always say, they got 100 players. They can run all of that stuff because they got 12 quarterbacks, sitting there.
Well, they're trying to win games, bro.
They're trying to win games with the pro system.
They're not. No, I didn't say you can't. I'm saying they're not saying, well, we need to run a pro system because we want our quarterback to get drafted in the NFL. You're saying we need to run this because these are the kind of players we have, and we're trying to win games. All they care about is winning games, bro. Believe me.
I don't argue that, but I don't see why one is exclusive to the other. Why does one exclude the other? You can't have both. And Deion, that's what I'm saying. They have an opportunity to have both. Win games. As a matter of fact, when we talk about
that doesn't equate to everybody. Okay? Deion Sanders is the coach at this school. The coaches at the other HBCUs, most people don't even know their names. When Deion Sanders comes to your house to recruit your son, you know, you're sitting there with your eyes big, the kid's sitting there with his eyes big, everybody saying, you okay? He's going to get players that these other coaches can't get. He's going to pull 1, 2, 5, 7 guys away from major college programs where these other coaches can't do it. So he will have the ability to run a pro system or whatever system he wants because he will have more elite athletes than the other schools will. Hopefully that will change and more elite athletes will begin to go to more different HBCUs.
All right. I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to challenge your thought on that a little later in our next segment because I think you're going to it's going to be really fun to look into that. Okay. Anything else on Deion?
No, I'm good with Deion. I love what Deion's doing. I love Deion as a person and a player. I have no problem with what he's doing. I think he's been really cool and kept a really cool head, considering some of the flack that some people have tried to throw at him. He's being real humble and real team oriented. I think his players love him. I got no problem. Even though he did have a transfer, he had a quarterback that's transferring out and going somewhere else because the kid thought he didn't get a fair shake. But that happens everywhere. So,
okay. So Ben, Alex Smith retired, and I want to get a little bit of your thoughts on him in general, and then I want to share some information that I found out about Alex Smith that I was absolutely floored by because I did not know it. And again, I don't profess to have a long, deep knowledge of college football. You know, I was always a pro guy, you know, even as a little kid, you know, and I didn't have brothers. I got 7 sisters, but no brothers. And my dad wasn't into sports. And my mom really wasn't into sports. So I just had whatever I had and that was it. But long story short, as I read this about Alex Smith, I was absolutely amazed. Now you might know some of the things that I'm going to mention about him. So let's see here. All right, let's get started. First of all, I wanted you to just get a chance to just mention Alex Smith, retirement, and your comments or thoughts on it.
okay. So Alex Smith had a pretty nice career. It's a shame that he had that really horrific leg injury that actually put his life in jeopardy, but somehow he was miraculously able to rehabilitate himself to the point where he was actually able to come back, make an NFL team, and play in NFL games, and in fact, win games. I was heartbroken, and I believe he was a bit heartbroken when some things came out about him and possibly his future with the Washington football team. I know that he thought that he should have played in at least the first playoff game that they had last season, but they chose to go with someone else, Taylor Heineke, I believe. Not that he thought he was better than Heineke, but he thought that his small body of work during that season warranted that he should have started that game. I kind of agree with him.
Yeah, I kind of did too.
Yeah, some of the information that came out like the 2 weeks before and the week before the game made it sound like perhaps they were afraid to put him back out there because he had come off of some minor injury that had nothing to do with his leg. And they kind of made it sound like they were looking out for him, you know what I mean? But he said he was 100%. He said he was ready. I think he should have been able to get out there and do his thing. But, you know, that's besides the point. Him retiring now may have something to do with that. Maybe he doesn't want to press his luck. maybe he doesn't want to play with another team or have to go somewhere else and try out and end up being a backup and go through the whole rigmarole. The guy's been through a lot, but he's had a really nice career. He's played on some really good teams. He's put up some really decent numbers, and I just applaud him, and I wish him all the luck in the world in retirement.
All right. All right. He's a former 49er, and as part of the 49er faithful, you know, I always try to, you know, look at our players, even once they've gone beyond us, to keep an eye and see what they're doing. Kind of like when I mentioned Derrick Rose in the post the other day, needing to get a jumper, and you're like, it's never gonna happen. Like, can't teach an old dog new trick. I'm like, all you have to do is look at them. Just look at the Jordan. You know, Jordan did it. If Jordan can develop a jumper, everybody should be saying, oh yeah, if I want to elongate my career. But we'll just go past that. When I looked at Alex Smith, I know you don't want me to go past that. We'll argue about this later in private.
You ask a player that's been in the NBA for 16 years to develop a jumper like tomorrow night.
Come on. I ain't say tomorrow night, but I'm just saying he need to work on it.
When's he going to do? He's been in the NBA for 16 years. If he hasn't done it yet, he's not going to do it.
I didn't say
my point.
To do it.
I think he needs within his first 6 years. Jordan developed a jumper within his first 5 or 6 years. That's different.
All right. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, now you see what it's like with us for the last 40 years. You know, so anyway, so I'm reading this article on Alex Smith. The first thing that struck me was that, okay, it says here that Alex Smith was best known in high school at Helix High School. You ever heard of Helix High School?
Yes, I have.
Why? What happened there?
I don't remember.
Okay. He was best known for handing the ball off to Reggie Bush.
Ah, there you go. I knew it was in California.
I had no clue that there was any connection to Reggie Bush with Alex Smith. So this is one of those things where I was saying, you know, I'm learning about college a little bit more and some of the things, and some of it's absolutely fascinating. But the main thing was that this article was basically saying that the 2004 Utah team that Alex Smith played for changed college football.
Yes.
Oh, okay, Mr. Football. Yeah. This is what I'm asking. You know what this is all about?
I don't know what it's all about, but I know what you're saying is correct.
Okay.
Utah was a team that would be considered kind of like what we call mid-major.
Okay.
They're D1, but they're not in a top 5 conference. But when you start stringing together records where you lose 1 game, 2 games, go undefeated, then people start to look at you. Utah did that.
Absolutely. And what they're talking about here is that they say Smith helped change the way football was fundamentally played, elevating his university to the cusp of a new paradigm, and helped author a historic first-time accomplishment. What they're talking about is that he was a part of the introduction into college football, or the reintroduction of the spread offense.
Yes.
Pro style.
Yes. with some read option.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, he was always a decent runner. I always felt like he wasn't Colin Kaepernick, but he was the kind of guy that if he took off, he could get 10 yards, he'd get that first down. You know, he had that athleticism. So he did have that. He actually, they said in the article, he actually outdueled Aaron Rodgers in one particular game. And I was like, wow, you know, he had a pretty stellar college career. They said single season school records for touchdown passes, 32, TDs accounted for 42, and career passing efficiency of 164.4. So he was a great spread quarterback. He went 99, 67, and 1 in the NFL through 199 touchdowns, passed for 35,650 yards. But, you know, he always had that situation. He actually got his start in college because there's the starting quarterback who was in front of him got injured. So funny that it happened to him with the Niners. Not funny, but, you know, ironic, I think, is more so. But like I said before, he always seemed to have that backup who underneath his jersey had an S on his chest, a Superman S. You know, first he's with the Niners and it's Colin Kaepernick stepping up, you know, and doing things that people, you know, hadn't seen for a while at that level. Then he goes to the Chiefs, and man, did he have a backup doing things that people hadn't seen hardly ever. So I can understand when he went to, like you said, he went to Washington, played pretty well, and then found himself kind of in that same situation. But Heineke is neither. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but this
those
is
two quarterbacks.
after that injury. So if he doesn't have that injury, he's still playing. He would have started and probably played most of, if not all of this past season. And he missed 2 seasons. Okay, so his career is completely different if he doesn't get that injury. But after he comes back after the injury, it's a great story, comeback player of the year and all that stuff. But let's face it, nobody's going to look at you the same way. If you watch that I guess you call it 30, it was a 30 for 30 or a documentary, yeah. I forget what it was. Yeah. You watch that, you're like, dude, why would you even try to come back? But it was amazing what he said. He said he's going through his rehab and he's going through stuff and he doesn't know what's going to happen. And I'm just happy to be alive. And hopefully I'll be able to walk and play with my kids. And one day during his rehab, somebody said, here's a football.
Here's a football. And
he started throwing a football. He was down on one knee, throwing a football, and his rehab took off. It's amazing.
It sure did. So it was, football had that effect. Like we talked last week with Nina on the radio, who sponsors us on the radios. And I'll just mention WJRL953.com every Friday from 6 to 7:30, online radio with Ben and Barry on football. And, you know, and we talked about, we talked to Nina about the love of football, you know, when she talked about the video of the young lady who scored in the flag football game and that look on her face, you know. And so you and I both have it. There was, you know, something about football that kind of drove us to it constantly. And, you know, I remember me and you working out in the dead of winter, running the track behind Martin Luther King High School. You remember that?
Yeah.
Dedicated. This ain't pro. This was not pro.
I remember that, bro. I remember doing sprints up the hill on 20th Street by LaSalle too. LaSalle University. If you drive up that street, if you live in Philadelphia, you drive up that street up 20th Street, right along where LaSalle University is. LaSalle University now, right?
I think so.
Yeah, LaSalle University, where the football field is. The hill may not seem very impressive, but it's a steady incline for about a block and a half or 2. And we didn't just run up the hill, we sprinted up that hill.
I think that's a quarter mile.
And then we jogged back down and then we sprinted up that hill. Yeah, we had some pretty good workouts, bro.
Oh, believe me, absolutely. So, you know, the love of football, and if it helped save him and it gave him the juice to get through all of that to the point where he got back to, man, you know, take that and enjoy your life. And enjoy your life, enjoy your family. You got back to it. You played a little bit of football. And, you know, I don't know. We all have those, still have those dreams. Guys who retire, walk away from the game, they still struggle with it. You know what I mean? Vance Johnson, who played receiver for the Denver Broncos, was one of what they called the Three Amigos, you know.
I remember him.
Remember Three Amigos? Yeah, you know, he talked about his journey and the difficulties that he had to overcome, you know, even when he was playing and afterwards. So, you know, these guys go through a lot of different stuff, but football, a lot of times, kind of helps them keep their head straight, you know. And we do that with the kids when we coach the kids, you know what I mean? You and I coached, what was the 140s in Little League. And I think or was it the one? It was the 140. I'm pretty sure it was. And the thing that was different about our team was that these kids were right on the cusp of going to high school. They weren't the little guys, you know what I mean? And the 55s, the 65s, 75s, or even the 90s. You know, by the time the 90s come up, 75 and 90s, these little guys think they know football. They're out there running plays. So by the time they got to where we were, you know, we were dealing with really young men, you know, and so that was a slightly different coaching challenge than dealing with the little guys, you know, so we know what that's about. All right, Benny, next up, I want to talk about the Steelers. The Steelers. The one thing, if there's one word that you can use to describe the Steelers, it's stability. I mean, they don't change coaches a lot. You know what I mean? They don't, you know, that's a place where you go and you kind of know the history, the legacy. It's all somewhat still intact, from the Rooney family down to like maybe 3 coaches that they've had in the last, 20 plus years?
They've had 3 coaches since 1969.
Since 1969. That is amazing. And they just extended Mike Tomlin's contract for 3 more years, you know? So the gang came back. Big Ben, you know, he's there for 1 more year at least, right? The young receiver, you know, re-signed, took a 1-year contract to come back and play with those guys, you know, and it's going to be a challenging division for them. But Mike Tomlin has always been an excellent coach, man. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do during this part of his tenure.
This is, I'm not surprised. I would have been really surprised if, in fact, they did not extend him, because, like you said, it's kind of the Steeler way to keep us keep stability around. You have to admire an organization that can say they've only had 3 head coaches in all those years, and they have 6 Super Bowls. Yeah. They gotta be doing something right. Okay. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and people kind of looked funny at Bill Cowher. There were some folks that looked at Bill Cowher kind of funny, you know, but he lost 1 and he won 1. Okay. And then Mike Tomlin, there's people that are looking at him funny too. They're saying he just walked on to a great team. He won 1 early, you know. But guess what? These guys all fit the Steeler way. We talk about the Patriot way. People talk about the Patriot way. Before the Patriot way, it was the Steeler way. And the Steeler way lives on, okay? And they might be a little down now, but they're still a winning team. They're still going to be expected to make the playoffs. It won't be long before they're right back up at the top again, because that's just how the Steeler organization is and how it's run, and you have to admire that.
Yes, you do. You absolutely do. And we've recognized all along how hard it is to win a Super Bowl. Again, if there's 55 Super Bowls now, and the most any team has won is like 6 or 7, you know, Tom Brady's at 7, but that's all not all with the with the Patriots. So he had the one. Yeah. So he has like 6 with the Patriots. So long story short, out of 55 to win 6 in 55 years, you know, and be at the top of the winning percentage. And then you've got, I don't know, 30% of the teams that, you know, have never won a Super Bowl, at least 30, if not 50% of the league has never won a Super Bowl, you know? So I think people, they win a Super Bowl and it, you know, they think they're supposed to go back and win it the next year. You know, I'm sure the Kansas City Chiefs thought, oh yeah, we're going to go back and we're going to redo this. Interesting point I want to mention. And again, we're not necessarily plugging like Good Morning Football, but I watch it religiously. You watch it. And they have deep research departments. We don't have deep research departments. So when we're able to glean information, you know, we do that from wherever. I've got numerous sources. But long story short, Mr. Peter Schrager mentioned, talking about the Eagles. Last week, we mentioned that the Eagles had the most draft picks in this year's draft. But when you think about it, they're only 3 years off of winning the Super Bowl.
Right. Right.
From 3 years off winning the Super Bowl, you now have the most draft picks in the draft. And for the most part, you got to do some serious snoozing to get draft picks like that.
Well, I mean, you know, they made a couple of deals and all that, but the bottom line is not only do they have the most draft picks, but they're one of the teams that sorely needs a lot of draft picks.
Oh, no doubt.
You know, they kind of fell off the cliff after they won the Super Bowl, and there's lots of reasons why. And, you know, again, we could take an hour and talk about that. So let's not do that. But, you know.
Oh, no. And it wasn't about them.
What? This, and now when you talk about this, and then what did we just get finished talking about 2 seconds ago? Stable organizations.
Right. Stability.
Okay. So let's just leave that right there. Okay. Stable organizations.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So we'll move on from that. What we have next, as I said to you, I like to keep track of my former Niners. Didn't want to necessarily see this. Aldon Smith was being sought by the police for a battery charge. He actually has turned himself in already, and he's out on bail. So that whole, you know, thing has progressed from this release here. But long story short, you know, Aldon, so much talent. Had a pretty decent season. Didn't have a bad season with the Cowboys. Their defense stank, but he, you know, he provided some push up the middle. He provided some athleticism. Had a few good plays. Then he gets a nice contract, or at least a 1-year contract with the Seahawks. And I'm like, awesome. You know, I was so happy to see that. And then boom, this you see this. There's also another. Oh, I'm gonna hold this till later. So go ahead. What you know?
I mean, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this.
Well, you don't have to.
Here's a guy that has all the football ability in the world and has absolutely no social skills. This guy can't keep his hands off of people. Okay. You have a job that allows you to get super physical with other human beings. It's your freaking job. People pay you to do it. And you can't turn it off when you're out on the street. You can't keep your hands off of people that don't wear football uniforms when you get paid to put your hands on people that do wear football uniforms. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I don't think if people are going to take that the wrong way. I put this in the same category as your Josh Gordons. Okay. That for some reason, after getting chance after chance after chance, you can't put down a blunt, bro. I'm done.
Millions of dollars at stake here. And it was a woman, apparently, from what I understand, that,
of course, which makes it even worse.
makes it even, because he's like 6'4" or something, 2'4". So it gets to be ridiculous, and it kind of was. So sad to say, we'll leave it at that for right now.
Yeah,
There's much better news coming out of 49erville, where my man Patrick Willis is going to deliver the 2020 commencement address for his team, Ole Miss, Mississippi. And he is going to be down there. And again, I didn't follow him in college, okay? But he was inducted into the National Football Foundation College Football Hall of Fame in 2019, and he's going to give the university's 2020 commencement. Let me tell you something. I believe it was Turf Toe that took him out, wasn't it?
You know what? I think you're right.
Yeah. I was, we have a great middle linebacker right now. Back then, we had a tandem between Willis and the other linebackers.
Carl Bowman.
That's what I'm talking about. Mr.
Y'all was stacked.
That was a heck of a linebacker, dude.
One of those stacked years, though, the Giants went in the Candlestick and beat y'all, but we won't talk about
it. Well, that we had a lot of classic battles with the Giants, and the Giants, we were doing pretty good back, and so absolutely, and so just, I think that's, again, congratulations, to Patrick Willis. It's always good, to show that it's both sides. That's life. That's the yin yang of things. You're going to have that happen. I wish Aldon Smith would connect with Patrick Willis and try to get his life together, for example. But we know that, how that works out. So that's about all I have to say on that. Anything else from that on you?
Congratulations to Patrick Willis. I think that's a great honor to go back to your old university and get to give a commencement speech. That's wonderful. That means he's highly thought of still by the school that he graduated from years and years ago. He's obviously a good speaker, and they sought him out and brought him in for that. I think it's a great honor, and congratulations.
Absolutely. All right. We're about to wrap this puppy up. I want to say a couple things. Number one, we talked a little bit about Trey Lance. And again, one of the things that came out of these pro days, and Ben, let me just, with the situation in no combine, they have pro days today. Are they going to have pro days up to the day of the draft? Is it going to be like day before the draft and somebody still throwing passes and running 40s?
Let me tell you something, man. This pandemic done changed everything, bro. There's no limit on pro days.
No limit.
What you got to do is call a coach or call the athletic director and say, bro, help me out. Open the facility. Call your boys, give me some receivers. Bang, bing, bong. You're in. It's pretty much down to just the quarterbacks now, because again, we got a little bunch of quarterbacks here, and they're all vying for top spots. They're all looking to be picked within the top 10. That's where the money is. And there's a nice little group of teams that need quarterbacks, and even the guys that are kind of on the fringes, some of the names that you haven't heard. One guy's name, Kyle Trask from Florida.
Right.
Probably drop to the second round, possibly the third. Somebody might sit back and wait for a guy like him. There's another guy, his last name is Mond, M-O-N-D.
Yeah, Kellen
Mond. Right. He's another guy that will probably drop to the second round.
Hey, was you impressed, man? Was you impressed? That little college name.
yeah, that was good, man. That was good. I mean, you've been doing the homework. Okay. So yeah, that's a big deal. But okay. We've been doing a lot of stuff about the draft, and we've been doing our mocks and all this and watching all the mocks that are coming up on TV. I don't want to get into that, but the most intriguing thing possibly in the entire draft, and most definitely in the first round of this upcoming draft, is what are the 49ers going to do with the third pick overall? To me, that is the most intriguing thing of this draft. Now, as soon as they make the pick, there'll be a new intriguing thing, and that'll be who gets Kyle Pitts. But we'll put that on the back burner for now. Right now, when my brother and I did our mock draft, I believe I had the 49ers taking Trey Lance.
Yes, you did.
I think at that moment you weren't quite sure. You've done some homework. You've looked at a second pro day. You've researched some of the other guys. I believe as a 49er fan, you now would prefer that they take Trey Lance. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, if you watch the NFL Network and FS1 and every other sports channel, you've seen the gamut that Justin Fields has been going through, okay? With people talking about him in the negative, people talking about him in the positive, people making comparisons between this guy and that guy and that guy and this guy, people looking at the competition that he played. That's not that big a deal because guy played at Ohio State. They're in a Power 5 conference. They play top competition, okay? But he's really only got one really stellar year under his belt. And we talked in the past about Ohio State not exactly being a quarterback factory, okay? In fact, Ohio State's turned out some quarterbacks that were really good in college and then got to the NFL and pretty much crapped out.
Listen to this. Because again, last week when we had Nina on and she was trying to push Ohio State, poor baby, I had to bring her to the football part of it. And, you know, we don't spare feelings here. But she mentioned Art Schlichter.
Oh, God. I didn't want to go there.
You were so
enthusiastic.
I had to learn from you. You were so kind.
I was.
Let me read this list here. I got a list. Check it out. Art Schlichter, Jim Carsadis, right? Never played an official down in the NFL. Tom Tupa, right? Kent Graham, Bobby Hoying.
Bobby
Hoying. Yeah, that a great name, right? Joe Germain, Steve Balisari, never played an official down, right? Craig Krenzel, right? 5 games, 3-2 as a starter. Troy Smith, 20 games, 4-4 as a starter, right? Terrell Pryor, okay.
Change positions. Change to a wide receiver.
Change to a wide receiver. This is the guy that I thought was going to come into the NFL and really do something. Cardale Jones, okay.
Yeah, we liked Cardale Jones.
We liked Cardale.
He had the size, he had the arm.
He could run. And he stepped into a championship game off of the 3rd, 4th string and killed it. Yeah. Absolutely killed it.
Yeah.
And then went and wound up sitting on the bench. And, you know, we didn't see him really playing any football.
He's still playing, though, isn't he? He's somewhere. He's in Canada somewhere.
He was 0-0 as a starter, 96 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's his NFL stat line as the date. And then we had Dwayne Haskins follow that up.
Now,
is the legacy that is pulling down the value.
Yes, but as an Ohio State fan, she has the right to be proud of those guys for what they did for Ohio State.
Absolutely.
Because they all played well for Ohio State. Ohio State's been a winning college program for decades. So I can't say anything derogatory about Ohio State as Ohio State and their football program. But as far as Ohio State quarterbacks making it in the NFL, it's darn near non-existent. Now, I will say this. I've been hard on Dwayne Haskins. I've been extremely hard on Dwayne Haskins. But I was having a conversation with some young guys the other day, and I said to them, you know, Dwayne Haskins is in a position right now to actually be able to turn his career around. It's still very early in his career. He's only been in the NFL for a couple of years. From what I'm hearing, he has a little bit of a work ethic problem. If he gets with the right coach and he gets with the right system and he can kind of get his head straight, whatever it takes to do that, whatever it takes, okay? This guy has the physical attributes to be able to turn his career around and be a viable NFL quarterback, be it backup, starter, or whatever. He is now with, if I'm not mistaken, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Am I correct?
That I'm not sure.
Double check that for me while
we're on here. Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure that's it. I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers now have Dwayne Haskins. He is in a really, really good position. Number one, he's got Mike Tomlin as a head coach. Number two, he's on the depth chart behind Big Ben Roethlisberger, who is in the twilight of his career. Number three, if in fact Big Ben makes it through this season and possibly one more, Dwayne Haskins is in the driver's seat to take over as the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That is amazing.
Could not ask for more.
That is amazing. And yes, I did confirm the Steelers did sign.
There you go. You could not ask for more. Bro, I'm begging you, don't blow this. Get your act together, please. I don't want to not like Dwayne Haskins. I don't. I want to like him. I do. I want him to do well.
The question that they mentioned in the quick survey, work ethic and maturity.
Yeah.
You know, work ethic and maturity. He had a situation again off the field. So, you know, long story short, what you just said, the whole possibility that Dwayne Haskins could take over as a starting quarterback for the Steelers. Whew, man.
There's no competition.
Trey, I know. We've already talked about the sorry state of backup quarterbacks, and we want to continue to talk about that.
Yeah.
You know? Absolutely. That is amazing, though, to just think about that. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, you probably heard it here first on Ben and Barry on football that there's a possibility that in the future, now, depending on how the Steelers do, it'll be interesting to see if they bring some quarterbacks in to give him some competition, and that's kind of what happens in the NFL anyway. And he's going to need that competition. I don't think they're going to put all their eggs in that particular basket, you know. But him and Jameis Winston, I think, are just two examples of young African-American quarterbacks with a tremendous opportunity. You're talking about Jameis taking over for the Saints, Dwayne Haskins taking over for the Steelers. Psh, mind blown. All right. I just want to mention a couple, but one great line I heard. We talked about Sam Darnold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what he went through with the Jets. And somebody said his growth with the Jets was not only arrested, it was charged and convicted.
Oh.
And now he's been given parole.
Oh. That's rough. That's rough, man. That's rough.
Oh, I was loving it. Oh, man.
Listen, for you people that are laughing at Sam Darnold, go back and look at go on YouTube and go back to USC and look at some game tape from USC. Sam Darnold got the goods, man, but he got drafted into a really bad situation. And let's face it, he's not the first quarterback that's happened to. You know, he's not the first good quarterback that's happened to.
Well, that's the irony of being a great quarterback is you go to the worst team.
Exactly. But when you go to the worst team and one of the worst organizations, It's a little bit worse.
It's a little bit worse. Yeah, yeah. The good thing about, the Jet situations, they've got new people in management, coaching.
They got a new head coach that I believe in. I know you do.
Yeah. Former Niner, baby.
Right.
Former Niner. All right. So we're going to close this out. We got just a video that I thought was extremely fun, but it brings up the name of Mac Jones. And, there are people on the network who keep talking about the Niners taking Mac Jones. And I'm like, will you guys quit putting that out into the universe? Because I'm not done with Jimmy G yet. I think Jimmy G is a viable quarterback, especially in this system. And it's like if you bring in a Mac Jones is a guy just like the first, Trevor and the other gentleman from BYU, young man.
Zach Wilson.
If you bring these guys in, you have to figure they're going to be vying for a starting job. So if you bring in Mac Jones, I don't think you bring him in to sit him on the bench behind Alex Smith.
Nobody you pick with the 3rd overall pick is going to sit on the bench.
Exactly.
Very long.
Exactly. And again, Trey Lance, as far as I'm concerned, is one of those guys who has just an unlimited upside. The right coaching.
Okay. Now I'm throwing you a curve. Earlier.
Go ahead.
I started on something and we kind of got distracted and fell into the Ohio State thing. Justin Fields. How do you feel about Justin Fields? They could possibly take Justin Fields. You understand. He is in play. I hear you talking about Mac Jones. And the only reason why I said I don't think they'll go with Mac Jones is because I know that Kyle Shanahan is always at the forefront of what's going on in the NFL. Okay. And I know that I believe that he understands that not only he gets 2 things with Trey Lance. He gets the type of quarterback that is becoming extremely popular in the NFL, which was strong arm and mobility, along with a quarterback that's coming out of a pro system. That's why I believe they will take Trey Lance. Understand, I'm not saying I want the 49ers to take Trey Lance. I believe the 49ers will take Trey Lance. But Mac Jones has been talked about and dissected and looked at, and people, let's face it, they could take Mac Jones.
They could. Remember, what I want and what my Niners want, aren't necessarily the same thing.
So what I'm trying to tell you is when you cut on the draft, you ain't going to have to sit very long, before you're going to find out what's going on.
Well, so I'm going to say 2 things that I think is going to shut this whole thing, Justin Fields thing down.
Okay,
Ready?
go ahead.
Number 1, again, like Mac Jones, I believe that Justin Fields is a viable player to bring in, and you could potentially start him right away. I actually hope he breaks the mold for Ohio State quarterbacks and becomes.
But not with your team.
But not with my team. Secondly, I don't know if you saw the news today, but let me read you this headline. Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields managing epilepsy as he heads into the 2021 NFL draft. Ooh, look at that face, why don't ya?
What?
Yeah.
When did this come out today?
Dude, 5 hours ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So you heard it here on Ben and Barry. If you didn't, you might have heard it here first. Ben and Barry on football, www.benandbarryonfootball.com. Yes, Benny. Yeah.
That's almost as bad as like the day before the draft and the guy that was supposed to be the number 1 offensive lineman got caught with the gas mask on.
Oh, right.
Remember that?
Yeah, filled with smoke.
What? He's smoking weed like that? And now you're telling me this guy's got epilepsy? How come I've never heard of this?
This just came out. Like I said, this
He
one,
didn't just get it.
NFL.com, 5 hours ago.
He
It's
didn't
now
just develop,
Wednesday, April 21st.
but he didn't just develop epilepsy. He's had it.
Managing epilepsy. Okay.
So
go back and look at the article, get the details, but that's the headline.
You don't wake up one day when you're 20 and have epilepsy, I don't think.
I think you can. I think you can.
Really? That's possible?
Hey, we'll find out. Okay.
Holy smokes. I'm telling you, man. That's why you got to watch this show. This is great. We'd be surprising each other. Okay. All right.
So last thing,
we're gasted at this point. and unfortunately, if in fact he has had epilepsy, say for the majority of his life, which everybody I know or I've ever known that have epilepsy, they developed it when they were a child and they managed it throughout their life. And I know guys that have played football. I had a guy on my team that had epilepsy. He had one seizure. He played for me for like at least 8-10 seasons. And I saw him have one seizure. So it can be done. And it didn't affect his play or anything.
But he is being flagged, right?
But yeah. But when stuff comes out like this right before the NFL draft, it ain't gonna help him.
No, not at all. Not at all. So Justin Fields is an issue in and of itself. Like I said, they keep throwing Mac Jones' name out there.
It's scaring you, isn't it?
Look. So let me see if I can. It's kind of crazy what I wanted to show you. Okay, here we go. You ready? Yes. All right. So it says there, Mac Jones deserves an Academy Award. Let's play this.
To the bench to see like he's going to do a new play here. Watch him turn to the bench to the right. Like, coach, do you want something? That's part of the act, and they get the play off.
Good. That's good. I like it.
Not exactly the swinging gate that we ran.
No, that's a good play. Good play.
I know, because I really hadn't seen much where that motion person does that, on the quarterback. Tom Brady remember Tom Brady would do the fake Statue of Liberty thing where he'd jump up like the ball went over his head.
Yeah, that's deception. It's legal deception. Yeah, it's usually like a direct snap to the back or a direct snap to the motion guy. And then the fact that you throw your arms up in the air makes the defensive lineman continue to charge forward, which allows the guy to run. But yeah, I like it.
You like it? Yeah, I thought that was pretty much a fun thing. All right. Do I have anything else that I wanted to say real quick? No, I'm going to leave it at that. All right, sir. Let me simply say again, this is Ben and Barry on football. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Apple and Spotify podcasts. Hey, Ben.
Yes.
Do you know where they got the word podcast from?
No, I don't.
Remember the iPod?
Oh, geez. Okay.
I didn't know it either. But again, this is Ben and Barry Football, where you might find out anything. Go ahead.
Oh.
You look like you was getting ready to say something.
Well, I wasn't getting ready to say something, but I could say something.
Go ahead.
Okay. Go Knowles.